everybody. It's Pastor Brandon with The Gathering. Today I want to talk with you about having the faith to abandon. Have you ever been asked to do something extremely challenging? The answer is probably yes. And of course, each of us assess challenges differently. Something easy for you may be extremely difficult for me. In fact, that's likely. When something challenging is asked of us, though, we tend to ask questions back. Now, we should. It's a very good idea to make sure that we have, solid expectations going into a task. We want to do it right. We want to perform well, right? We may ask things like, what's this going to cost me? Or when should I be prepared to act? What's going to be the desired outcome? What are some measures to success along the way? What if none of those questions could be answered in the moment you were asked to help? What if you were simply asked, will you help me? Would you raise your hand to volunteer? But what if the request was a simple question, will you go for me? The prophet Isaiah had this simple question asked of him in a time when ancient Israel was just volatile. The vulnerability was palpable. A time when if you stepped up and opposed anything, you would most likely be cut down. And in fact, Isaiah was. But Isaiah was face to face with his Creator. His eyes were feasting on probably one of the most amazing sights they'd ever seen or would ever see. How could he ignore that call? How could he listen to God asking a question and go, man, I hope somebody steps up? In chapter 6, Isaiah recounts his vision of God's throne. In this moment, Isaiah is called on by God to be his spokesman, right? There are so many powerful and interesting things in this calling narrative, but there's one that I believe is so important for us to grab hold of in our lives and our own callings, and that's the response of Isaiah. Now, I want to read kind of a larger portion of this. This is Isaiah chapter 6, verses 1 through 8. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting upon a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above him stood the seraphim. Each had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, and with 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. And one called to another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is filled with his glory. And the foundations of the threshold shook at the voice of him who called, and the house was filled with smoke. And I said, Woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a burning coal that he had taken with tongs from the altar. Then he touched my mouth and said, Behold, this has touched your lips. Your guilt is taken away, and your sin is atoned for. And I heard the voice of the Lord saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then I said, Here I am, send me. With no clear vision forward, Isaiah abandoned certainty because his God was calling. With no idea what to expect, Isaiah abandoned safety because his God had spoken. In a time when people died for speaking out, Isaiah abandoned his very life because his God was present. Isaiah possessed a faith that asked nothing of God, but offered God everything he was. May we also apply such abandon to our lives, willing to walk with God wherever he may lead. May we be a people who say with Isaiah, "Here I am, send me." I hope this spoke to you today. I hope it motivates you like it did for me to dive deeper in your faith with God. If you'd like to read more about this, click on the link below. That'll bring you to our blog post on this topic. Blessings.